What's up, geeks? So I'm making an effort to resurrect this channel at least once in a while. And first up, I'm going to have a review of the Google Pixelbook. Now, I will also be doing some comparison between this and the Microsoft Surface laptop. The reason I got this is because I wanted to see if the Pixelbook, which is a Chromebook, a very powerful Chromebook, but a Chromebook nonetheless, if it could replace my Windows laptop. The short answer is no. But stick around, I've got a lot to talk about. Just completely ruined my flow, Pixel 2 XL. So first up, hardware. This thing is beautiful. I mean, it's just great to look at. It's premium, it's well built, it's sturdy in the hand, it's not too heavy. It is, honestly, looking at it, the laptop that I've always wanted. But the drawback comes with Chrome OS and its weird quirks. So first up, unlocking the computer. In order to unlock your Chrome device, you have to enter in your Google password every time. And if you're like me, you probably have a really long, very secure password. And yes, there is a newer option now to where you can set a 6-digit PIN to unlock faster. However, Chrome seems to make this weird decision between, like, I only want you to enter your password, or, hey, you can enter your password or your PIN. You pick. But it's kind of random. Just sometimes I want to enter the PIN, but it says I need my whole password. I don't know if this is some kind of weird extra security feature or what. I love it when someone comes to the door in the middle of me filming and I have to start over again. That's great. And I love it when the freaking phone stopped recording! But back to the point, unlocking the Pixelbook. So this is something that Windows does way better now. So for years you could set a password to unlock your Windows computer, and you could set it to as long or as short as you wanted it to be, which already has an advantage over signing into a Chrome device because you don't have to enter a full password. But unlocking your device is something that Windows has mastered at this point. Many of Microsoft's new laptops and even third-party laptops have this feature called Windows Hello. And the cool thing about it is that all you have to do is open up the laptop, look at the camera, and it's unlocked. It's just unlocked. Like, that's all I just looked at it, and it's unlocked. That's not really something you can do with a Chrome device. But what Chrome does have is a feature that allows the device to unlock if your phone is nearby. Problem is, it doesn't always work. When I first set up the Smart Unlock on the Pixelbook, I would have my phone literally next to the device, and it would not think that the phone was anywhere nearby. It would say it's too far away or some crap like that. I could have them sitting on top of each other, and it would say the phone was not there. This is not just a fault in the Pixelbook. I've had this same problem with my old Chromebook and my Chrome box on the desk behind me. I don't know if it's like some kind of weird Bluetooth quirk, if it's just a flaw in Chrome OS or what, but this always happens, and it doesn't matter which device I'm using, whether it's one of 3 different Chrome devices or it's one of the 5 different phones that I've had. I have had a lot of phones. Chrome OS just doesn't always want to do the Smart Unlock, and it's very weird and iffy as to how it decides when and how it wants to unlock itself. So, major point to Windows for this one because they have knocked it out of the park with Windows Hello. One of the advantages that Chrome OS does have over an operating system like Windows or Mac OS, do they still call it OS 10? Is it Mac OS now? I hate Apple. Anyway, one of the great things about Chrome OS is that no matter which device you use, everything is synchronized together. You don't have to set up an entirely new computer every time because it backs everything up to the cloud. That's why so many Chrome devices have such low storage options, because everything is just out there in Google land. It was one of the things that I really missed about going to the Surface laptop was that I couldn't just sign in and magically all of my things were there. I had to create a new device entirely. So that is one great advantage to these lightweight operating systems like Chrome OS. Once I did have it set up and I was logged in and everything, and it was pulling in all of my old apps from my last Chromebook, I noticed that the screen resolution was really big, like overly large, something I wasn't used to. Come to find out that the default resolution on the Pixelbook is like 1080 by 800 or something weird like that. Okay, so that screen resolution was actually 1200 by 800. But the point is, it's bigger than it should be. Especially like jumping from the Surface laptop, which lets me see all the things. Booting up the Pixelbook felt very cramped and claustrophobic at first. So I had to change the settings and bump up that resolution a little bit. Now, I think the reason this happens is because this device does run Android apps. So perhaps that's for the benefit of displaying the apps properly. Because after you bump up that resolution and try to open up an Android app, it is nearly unreadable at higher resolutions. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but it's not great. It's not great. But let's talk a little bit more about hardware features. So the Pixelbook is a convertible type laptop. It can be used in traditional laptop setting. You can flip it around, use it kind of like a tablet, but not really a tablet because it's way too damn heavy. Also, the power button placement on this thing is really strange. So over here, you've got your first USB-C port, you've got the headphone jack, and down here at the bottom, you've got a power button. Used to be the power buttons were part of the keyboard on Chromebooks, but for whatever reason, Google decided to make it a hardware button, kind of like a power button that you would find on a traditional tablet or cell phone. The problem is, it doesn't work like a power button on a tablet or cell phone. So when we use our mobile devices like a tablet, we're used to hitting that lock button and then suddenly the device wakes up or goes to sleep. Chrome does not treat that button the same way. In fact, if you hit that power button, nothing happens. If you hold the power button, that shuts the device down, which I don't want to do right now. So on those occasions where you are using the Pixelbook as a tablet, you can't put it to sleep. You have to actually close the device for it to not drain your battery and keep the screen on until, it just decides to turn the screen off and go into sleep mode on its own. And that's a little bit jarring at first. It's weird because we're so used to knocking that button and putting the device to sleep so we can sit it over to the side, but that's not how it works on the Pixelbook. And the reason I bring that up is because one of the things that Google is trying to do with this device and future Chrome devices is that they want to make them more like Android, more like our mobile devices that we take with us everywhere. Our phones, our e-readers, tablets, iPads, whatever. But Chrome just isn't in that kind of tablet headspace just yet. But they're trying. Another thing I really like about this hardware is the trackpad. This thing is smooth. I think it is all glass. It looks like glass, and it feels really good. Your fingers just glide over it with ease. It's so nice. And yes, it does support multi-gesture support. However, this is something that Microsoft does a little bit better, at least with their first-party devices. So the Surface laptop, it also has a great trackpad, and it doesn't have that same ease of motion. But Microsoft has implemented some amazing trackpad gestures that Chrome just doesn't have. For instance, you can quickly swap between apps, windows, programs, even multiple desktops on the Microsoft Surface just with a gesture. One of the things I really love about this is that with 3 fingers, I can just move between apps super fast. Also, oh, that's so nice. You don't get that with Chrome. Nothing's happening. And yes, they do have kind of one gesture really, which is there's all your windows and you can click on the one that you want. But I really like that Microsoft 3 fingers gets me where I'm going kind of thing. That sounded vulgar. And yes, okay, so there's a keyboard shortcut which kind of lets you do the same thing. I don't care for it. Sorry, it's just something that I've gotten so used to on Windows, I just prefer their implementation of it a lot more. Another problem I've kind of had with the Pixelbook is that sometimes the trackpad just does not respond to gestures. Like if I'm doing 2-finger scrolling, sometimes the scrolling just stops for no reason. One of the things I do love about it though is that the scrolling is super smooth on this thing. I don't know if it's the 8 gigs of RAM and the Core i5 processor that help it along, but it is just so fast at scrolling. So I mentioned for a second the convertible nature of the Pixelbook. It's one of the things that I love. Like the moment that I saw it, I knew this is the laptop that I've been waiting for. Because I've always wanted to go from typing, because I do a lot of creative writing, and I really need a keyboard to do that. But the fact that, let's say, if I get on my exercise bike and I want to watch a video, all I have to do, and I'm ready to go. The major problem with this, however, is that the Pixelbook is really awkward to hold in this form. So as you can see, if I'm gripping it, I've got either a hand on the keyboard or I'm clicking the trackpad. It's a really odd kind of sensation, especially like if you're used to the flat back of a traditional tablet, to have your hands running across clicking keys. So it's not exactly the way you want to spend your time using this device. And let's remember, this is a over 2-pound device. It's heavy. Like, you get really fatigued holding this up even for just a minute. And no, don't try to use this as like an e-reader device, because it's just not good. Just get an e-reader or a Kindle Fire or some crap like that. Just have both. It's okay. Just don't try to read on this. Okay, except maybe comic books. Comic books look great on this. And while we're talking about the keyboard, this thing is premium. It feels good to type on. The keys have a good bit of travel. They're not squishy. It's just nice. That's something that both the Surface Laptop and the Pixelbook do very well. The Surface Laptop, however, is a little bit more clicky with the keys. It has a better travel, I guess you could say. Like, you really feel that press of each key. And sometimes this can be a little bit gummy, but not much. I've used way worse. And you see these right here? This is rubber. This isn't just like some white metal. They actually put rubber feet on this to help it when you're in this orientation, which why would you ever use this? I don't understand. But these feel really great on your wrists. Like when you don't have your wrist resting on cold metal as you type, it just feels nice. It's so weirdly comfortable. And I don't know, kudos to Google for thinking that up. But the Surface Laptop is not to be outdone in that department, really. It does have that Alcantara fabric covering the keyboard, and it's so soft. And in order to allow you to use this thing in tablet mode, it does have some huge bezels. So you are sacrificing a good bit of screen real estate just to have the option to hold this in such a way that you don't have your fingers on the screen all the time. That's something that I really love about the Surface Laptop, is that the screen on it is the perfect size for a laptop, in my opinion. When I started using this, I just felt like the screen real estate was so much smaller. I really didn't like it at first. It's something that I adjusted to over about the course of a day, but when I go back to my Surface Laptop, I really prefer it. So, a few other features that you can only get with a Google device is the built-in Assistant. Now, I love Assistant. I use it all the time. I originally had it on my first Pixel phone. I, of course, use it all the time on my Pixel 2. I have Google Home Minis strewn about the house. It is not uncommon for me to just walk around and call to my Google device and ask it questions. I love it. And it's really nice that it's built into the system here. With the press of a key, you get Assistant activated. The big problem with that, though, is that I don't use it on this device very much. I still prefer to talk to my other Google devices rather than bring up a typing interface. And yes, you can change to voice input on here, but it requires an extra key press. And not on the keyboard. You actually have to hit the microphone button on the screen. So yeah, I love Google Assistant, but I've used it maybe 2 or 3 times since I started using the Pixelbook. And I think that really comes down to the fact that Assistant was built for phones and home speakers. It really wasn't meant to be used in a laptop. I can't really tell Assistant to automate things on the Pixelbook itself. Yes, I can tell it to add something to my schedule or set a reminder, but these are things I'd rather just go, "Hey Google," and then just tell my devices what I want them to do. Still, it's nice that it's there. It's a good feature, and it's sometimes useful. However, Google really sells this device on the inclusion of Assistant by use of this thing. So this is the Pixelbook pen. Yes, I got both because if you're going to get the Pixelbook, you got to get the pen, right? So one of the big selling points of the pen was that if you hit a button and circle something on the screen on the Pixelbook, the Assistant will pop up and tell you what that thing is. Or maybe give you more information, things like that. The problem is that it doesn't really work that often. Sometimes I would play around with it and I would circle pictures of like brands and things and think that it would come up with more information, but it really wouldn't most of the time. I mean, sometimes it would just search the image, sometimes it would read the text in the image and give me some more information, which that's cool. But it's really not that useful of a feature. There's really no reason to use it. Like, honestly, you'll play around with it for all of 10 minutes and then get bored with it. But that's not all the pen is good for. Yes, you can use it to capture areas of the screen, mark them up, save them for later, and you can use it in various note-taking or drawing apps. Now, I have not used drawing apps with this thing because I don't draw. I have, however, used Google Keep's drawing function, and it works well enough. There is a little bit of lag, even though Google says that, oh, it's lag-free. No, there is lag, especially when you use Keep. And not only that, the device gets weirdly hot when you write in Google Keep with this thing. I guess maybe that's just something with the underlying technology, but yeah, the Pixelbook is going to heat up and the battery may drain a little bit faster because of that. However, if I have to use a pen or stylus with either of these devices, it would definitely be on the Pixelbook. When I first got my Surface laptop, I did get the stylus that Microsoft makes for use with their Surface devices, but I ended up returning it after a single day. And that's really because this is not a convertible laptop. This is as far back as it goes. So writing on it with a stylus is incredibly uncomfortable. There are other Surface devices out there which are much better fitted to use of the stylus, like the original Surface and the Surface Book, which is crazy convertible. And really, there's just a better suite of programs out there for Windows devices that utilize a stylus. That's just a drawback of Chrome OS, and that's something I'll talk about in a minute. Actually, let's talk about it now. So one of the biggest drawbacks to Chrome OS, and you'll hear me say this and every other reviewer out there say this, is that it just doesn't have the apps to back it up. The purpose of Chrome OS was originally to just run a browser and a couple of browser-built apps. And it was great for that. The first Chromebook that I owned wasn't very expensive. It was like $200. It was snappy enough. It browsed the web. It accessed my Google Docs and Google Drive and all the other things that I used on a daily basis in such a way that I didn't need it to be powerful. I didn't need it to do anything more. I just needed access to the internet. But with devices like the Pixelbook and some third-party manufacturers like the devices that Samsung's putting out right now, a lot of these have very powerful internals. Like I mentioned, this is running a Core i5 processor. You can bump that up to an i7 if you want to. And it has a ton of storage. It starts out at 128 gigs. Which is the same as my Surface laptop. In fact, both of these devices are almost identical internally. The only difference being that the base model of Surface laptop that I have only has 4 gigs of RAM, and this starts out at 8. And you can tell a difference. But back to the point, all you needed to do was just get on the internet with Chrome OS. But Google wants this to become like the next big operating system. At least I think they do. They kind of can't keep it together when it comes to Chrome OS. Over the last year, Google has made a huge effort to get Android apps running on Chrome devices, and that's in order to beef up their software library. because unfortunately you really can't build really great editing suites for Chrome OS, at least not yet. So this is a power laptop built for power users, but without the software that we need to do powerful things. One of the big things I wanted to know if I could do on this when I bought it was, can I edit my videos on it? No. I'm also learning Android programming. Can I run Android Studio on it? No. Okay, so actually you kind of can run Android Studio on it, but it is such a pain in the ass workaround to get it on here that it's not worth it. And yes, there have been rumblings since early last year that Google was working very hard to get Android Studio running on devices like this to kind of keep everything within their ecosystem, right? But there's been zero talk of that since early 2017, so it's probably not going to happen at this point. And okay, so there are some Android apps that you can download to this to kind of do those things I was talking about. There are very simplistic video editors available, but they don't offer all the options that I need when I edit a video. So it's a good effort on Google's part, but it's just not enough. If they really want power users to come to the Pixelbook, they're going to have to get some developers on board and make really robust programs for professional editors, whether it be video, audio, photo, whatever. And that's really the reason that I can't justify keeping this $1,000 at the base model laptop, because it doesn't really function as a laptop, at least not in the way that I need. The Microsoft devices, yeah, it's Windows. There's a huge back catalog of programs. People make robust editing suites for it. It's great. You can't go wrong with it. And Microsoft has made great improvements, especially in Windows 10, to create a fantastic operating system. In fact, it's the best version of Windows that I've ever used. I actually enjoy using Windows for once. As far as hardware goes, yes, I think this is maybe the future of hardware computing. It's just that it doesn't have the right operating system on it. So if there's a marriage between these two devices, go with that. And yes, that marriage kind of does exist in the Microsoft Surface Book, which, okay, sure, it starts out at base price of the higher end spec for both of these, but it's a tablet and a laptop. Like, you can actually undock the tablet portion from the keyboard, and that's pretty damn cool. The battery life on these two devices do seem to be about comparable. I average maybe 9-ish hours of use out of either one, depending on what I'm doing. So no problem there. One thing I kind of miss when it comes to the Pixelbook is that there is no one-handed opening on this thing. You have to get in there and pull it up. It's not going anywhere. That's something I really like about the Surface Laptop. It's just so easy to open. One of the biggest hardware flaws in this device, it being so premium, the speakers are horrible. So just like the Surface Laptop, the speakers are built under the keyboard and fire upwards. So when you use it as the tablet, the speakers fire backwards. But the biggest problem is that they just sound like crap. There's like no bass to it. They sound really, really tinny, especially at higher volumes. I was watching a video on YouTube and I had to turn it off because it made the sound so unbearably screechy. I played that same video on my Surface Laptop and did not have that problem. The sound is rich and beautiful and impressive for a speaker that's built under a keyboard. Speaking of keyboards, this is a backlit one. And that's really great. It's something that you don't find on most Chromebook devices, but it is something that Google has been building into their Pixel hardware for a while. The weird thing is that sometimes it just doesn't turn on. I'm pretty sure that's because the ambient light sensing technology in here is just a little bit wacky, because sometimes in the dark it just won't turn on, but then after a few seconds, there it goes. Something else that I really miss from my Surface Laptop on the Pixelbook is the auto brightness, which is, I think, a little more aggressive on the Microsoft device and not so much here. I really have to adjust the brightness on the screen constantly, depending on the time of day. And night mode. Okay, so Google, if you are watching this, why the hell is night mode not a built-in feature to any of these devices. Everybody else has got it right now. Microsoft's got it. Apple's doing it. A couple of other manufacturers, they have this built in. And yes, okay, so night mode is in Chrome OS, but it's not a feature that you can enable easily. It's actually considered experimental at this point. So you have to dive into these deep settings that average users don't know how to access just to turn it on. And even then, it doesn't work properly. On my Surface laptop, with night mode, it knows the time of day, it turns the night mode on and off automatically. It's great. Same thing works great on my Pixel phone. But enabling this experimental feature on the Pixelbook is very flawed. For one, even though it is set to on by sundown, off by sunrise, it doesn't work. In fact, not once has night mode turned itself on and off after I enabled it. I have to do it all manually. It's just, I know it's small, it's not a huge thing, but it's really annoying that one, it's not ready for prime time, and two, even though it is there for people who know how to enable it, it doesn't work. Fix this, Google. And another thing, okay, so there's no caps lock button on this. There's this weird circle app launcher thing in its place, and it brings up your apps or programs. However, the first day, it would just not work randomly. In fact, I had to restart the device several times to get the launcher to start working when I hit the button. And let's talk about these ports. So the only ports that this comes with is a headphone jack and a USB-C port on either side of the device. And these can be used for charging, external monitors, all that crap. Comparing that with the Surface laptop, there's only one USB port, which is not USB-C. You have your display port and the headphone jack. And on the other side, you've got your charging port. That's it. And when I first got it, I chided Microsoft for not including at least one USB-C port or two and not having the old-fashioned USB port. However, after spending about a week with the Pixelbook, I see why they said it just isn't ready for prime time. USB-C technology is great. I love that it's on more of my devices now. But the problem is, at this point in time, yeah, you're going to be living the dongle life. If I want to use an external display with my Pixelbook, I've got to buy new hardware. If I need to plug in a memory card reader, I've got to buy a new piece of hardware. USB-C kind of sucks right now when it comes to laptops and desktops. And yes, that will change over the next few years once everybody starts to adopt it. But right now, it is a pain in the ass. Also, Microsoft's dedicated magnetic charger is awesome. Sure, I can charge by either port on this, but I have almost knocked it off my desk by tripping on the cord once. And I have never been afraid of doing that with the Surface laptop. In fact, I have tripped over my Surface laptop cord before, and all it did was just yank out the cord. Everything was fine. And going back to the internals on these devices, so yeah, they're almost identical internally, but Pixelbook does do things a little bit smoother, and that's really because it's running a simplified, very streamlined operating system. Whereas Windows, it's Windows, and all that entails. So yes, randomly Windows will just bog itself down, nothing will work, and I have to completely restart the computer. And that's not to say that you don't have to restart the Pixelbook from time to time when it experiences an issue, but this does not slow down nearly as much as the Microsoft device. So yeah, sometimes you just got to turn it off and on again. One thing I couldn't test out in the time that I've had this is the automatic tethering between the Pixelbook and a Pixel phone. So supposedly, if you're out in the wild and aren't near Wi-Fi, but you have your Pixel phone on you, this will automatically connect and share the connection so you're online. The only thing is, I'm never not around Wi-Fi. So it's a cool feature, it's there if you need it, but you're never going to use it. Like, the only time I can think that this would come up is if I am like traveling on a road trip and I need to like get online with this. Then yeah, that works. But honestly, just turn your phone's hotspot on. So the big question, am I keeping the Pixelbook? No, I can't justify spending minimum of $1,000 for what amounts to a beautiful, well-made, fast device that can't do very much. You could take that $1,000 and get the base model of the Surface laptop, which, okay, so you're only getting half the amount of RAM, but this thing is still a power horse. And really, you can bump up the specs on this for about $200 more and get that 8 gigs. When it comes to the Pixelbook, you can bump it up to the next storage space, which is the same internals, or go all the way up to an i7 processor with like 512 gigs of RAM, which, why do you need that? Why? It's a Chromebook. Why? Now, yes, it's totally possible that in May during Google I/O, there could be some type of huge announcement that, hey guys, Chrome OS is going to start running Linux programs and you'll be able to do this and this and this, and they could shock us. They could surprise us all. But that's really unlikely. And who knows, maybe Fuchsia OS, the next generation of Google's operating system, will be the system that fixes all of these problems. But that's a long way off. The public won't even get to see that operating system for at least another year if they don't can it. So unfortunately, though I have enjoyed my time with the Pixelbook, it's going to go back to the store. It's beautiful, it's well built, it works great, but $1,000 for something that you can't do a lot on is just a bad use of money. That is not to say that I wouldn't keep it if, somebody paid for it, other than me, but I can't justify that cost. But you tell me, what are your thoughts? Have you used the Pixelbook? Have you tried the Surface laptop or the other Surface devices? How do you think they stack up? Let's discuss. And until then, I'll catch you geeks later.